Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've been having some fun in the chat box discussing our favorite foods. I think one of mine would have to be lasagna with lots of ricotta cheese. So good. We're going to get into some heavy topics today. So I like to start with some lighthearted fun. Um, Anyway, I am Michelle Morris with Consolidated Planning Group. And today we're going to be talking a lot about the ABLE account. I do have some questions that were sent in ahead of time, so I'll address as many of those as I can. Also, I encourage everybody to use the chat box to ask any questions or leave comments. I'm going to go ahead and paste my contact information into the chat box right now so that everybody has it. If you would like to meet with me after the meeting to ask any additional questions, or if we don't get to your question today, feel free to contact me anytime by phone or email. So the other thing I want to let you know, other than the chat box, is that we do record all of our webinars. We present live, we record them as we are presenting, and then we put them on our YouTube channel. So if you miss one or if you need to leave early or something, you can come back and grab it. If you have pre-registered, we will send you a copy of the slides and a link to the recording on YouTube. Now, if you're already watching on YouTube or maybe listening on our podcast, you can get the slides by emailing us contact@cpgcares.net would be the best place to ask about those slides. Contact@cpgcares.net. Now, a little bit, who is Consolidated Planning Group? We are a holistic financial planning firm that focuses on serving the special needs community. The reason we do this is because as professionals and as parents to loved ones with needs, we understand how important it is to consolidate, pun intended, to consolidate your moves. You know, so many of the people that we work with are just trying to make it from Tuesday to Wednesday. And here we're asking you to plan for the rest of people's lives. So we are here to really help you through that process, through thinking about what is going to need to be done to make sure that your loved ones are taken care of, even after you're gone. We do everything that any other financial planning firm does, but we do it through that specialized lens of understanding resources, government benefits, and things that you need to know as the parent of someone with needs. We have been in financial services for over 30 years, fully licensed in insurance and securities, investments, anything that you might need. We are also members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are nationally certified Social Security advisors, and we are chartered special needs consultants. So we take this very seriously, and we are experts in the field. We partner with families to get comprehensive planning in place for the future, thinking about what does that lifetime of care look like? How and who will care for your child in the future? How do we protect them and your family against unforeseen circumstances like an early death or a disability? What about transition planning? You know, when your child turns 18, when they move out of your house, when they graduate from high school, when you pass away, these are all major transition periods that we can help you and your family and your loved ones prepare for. We take a multi-generational approach to serving the needs of your family so that we are here for you as parents and for the next generation. We want to be here for you until your family doesn't need planning anymore. We can help with ABLE accounts, waiver programs, special needs trusts, how all of these things work together and how the money needs to flow so that you don't jeopardize any of these great state and federal benefits you can get. Not only do we help with the state and federal benefits, but local resources. We help you think of a future cost of care. So that's, you know, we're thinking about after the parent has passed away, but while the child is still here, that time period needs to be paid for. The child needs housing and care and food and all of these things. And how is the parent going to provide for that after the parent is gone? We help you with those things and to think about how much money it's going to take to make that happen. And again, we are here to advocate for you and to educate you. We offer a lot of great free information. We also offer paid planning services. But, fewer than 0.1% of all the financial advisors in the United States truly focus on special needs the way that we do. So you are in good hands with us. And even though we are based just outside of Houston, Texas, we do serve families all across the United States. So if you know anyone in the United States who might benefit from our resources, please feel free to tell them about our webinars, tell them about Consolidated Planning Group, and we will be able to help. A few bits of advice before we jump into our discussion on ABLE accounts. We want to make sure that you understand that the right time to start planning is right now. People often come to us and they say, oh, well, my child is only 5 years old, or my child is 35 years old. Maybe I don't need to do a plan. Yeah, you do, because the more time you have to plan, the longer runway you have, and you can make small incremental changes that will have a large impact on your plan. Planning when you're not stressed, when you have time and it's not a rushed issue, is going to be so much better than planning in an emergency situation. And having these plans in place when that emergency does come around, if something happens, is vital for yourself and your loved ones. And I don't want to talk about this too much, but I actually had a very close friend pass away last week. He was involved in an accident and he did not make it. And I was there with him. But his family has still been unable to find his will. That's creating huge issues. So have these things in place, make sure that they can be found and they are accessible. When it comes to supporting your child, think about who is going to take care of them. Where will they live once you're gone? What's going to happen after high school? Is it an educational experience, maybe? Maybe you just want to look at vocational options for them after high school, or maybe a residential community is best for your loved one. Whatever happens after high school, you don't just want them to graduate to the couch. You want to have some planning in place. And when it comes to that question, big question of who will take care of your loved one, where will they live? A lot of people automatically assume that a sibling is going to be the best helper. And that's not always true. It can create resentment on both sides of that equation. So just think carefully when you're considering the implications of having a sibling as a future caregiver. So today we're going to really be digging into ABLE accounts. Now, some of the questions that I've received before this webinar do not relate to ABLE accounts, and that's fine. I'll get to as many of those as I possibly can. But today we're really going to be talking about what is an ABLE account, who can use it, what can it pay for, and how does it compare or fit in to your overall plan when you have a special needs trust as well. Please, again, put your questions in the chat box, and you will receive a link to the recording and you will receive the slides later on today. Okay, so an ABLE account. Many people have heard of a 529 college savings plan. That is a 529C. And many people across the country use those to set aside money for educational expenses for their loved ones. However, The 529C for college can only pay for educational expenses. So what happens when you have a loved one who might not go to college, but still has expenses need to be paid for? The government has created an ABLE account program. This is a different section of the same tax code, 529. This is a 529A. Easy to remember, 529A for ABLE, 529C for college. This is a tax advantage savings program. The beneficiary is the account owner. And what happens is you put money into this account that can be saved up for your loved one, does not count against their limits for SSI and Medicaid and other government benefits. The income earned on the investment in the account is not taxable, so it grows tax-free. And you can use the money in the ABLE account to pay for anything that your child needs. This flexibility is crucial for being able to pay for their expenses and holding money outside of their bank accounts so that they can continue to receive their benefits. Now, there are some minor drawbacks and some rules you have to follow. For example, if you put more than $100,000 into the ABLE account, that could jeopardize some of your loved one's benefits. There may be Medicaid reimbursement to the state if your loved one passes away and there's still money in the account. And we'll get to those things. Now, key contribution details and some changes for this year. This year in 2026, they changed the age. Starting in January 2026, the disability has to have begun before age 46. It used to be 26. So they've just opened up ABLE accounts to 20 years worth of people who were not eligible before or who might have missed that window. You can put $20,000 into the ABLE account for 2026 per ABLE account. That's not mom can put in 20,000 and grandma can put in 20,000. It's per account. There is something called the Able to Work provision, which states that if the account owner, the individual with needs, is working and they don't have a retirement plan, then they can contribute even more to their ABLE account, to $15,650. But it does depend how much they would make at work. So if you only make $5,000 at work, you can contribute that additional $5,000, not $15,000. Now, if you have a 529 ABLE account or a 529 college plan, and you're finding that, this money is not going to be used as it is in this account, there are some things we can do. If you have the college account, you can easily roll it over into an ABLE account. We can take care of the paperwork for you. You roll that over into an ABLE account, and that way they can use the money for anything that they need instead of just educational expenses. Now, if you already have an ABLE account and that person passes away, there is a Medicaid reimbursement clause, but you're going to learn that sometimes they don't collect that. Sometimes you still can roll over the money to a family member who qualifies. And there's also a Savers credit. They have given us a federal tax credit of up to $1,050 on our contributions to the ABLE account. There are usually not state level contributions, deductions for your contributions. But in some states, they do give you that benefit. Here in Texas, we don't have state income tax anyway, so there's no way to give us a deduction for that. All right, so how do you prove that you are eligible for an ABLE account? Well, first of all, if you're already receiving some kind of a benefit from the government, like SSI or SSDI, or even a waiver program, you are automatically qualified. You really don't have to prove anything because the government has already confirmed the disability and you're already receiving benefits. That's proof enough. Now, if you're not receiving those benefits yet, what you really need is a disability certification letter from your child's physician. When you open an ABLE account, the one that we open, this is not a long, drawn out application like it is with SSI. You don't have to provide diagnoses or medical records or anything like that. You just check a box and sign saying that this is your affidavit that this person does have a disability that started before age 46. Now, if you ever get audited, I'm knocking on wood because none of our clients have gotten audited to date and we don't want it to happen. But if you should ever get audited, you will need to have proof of eligibility. How do you use the ABLE account and what can you use it on? Well, it's really nice that the ABLE account is so flexible. With the ABLE account, the rule is that qualified disability expenses have no tax, no penalties, no fees with this ABLE account. So what is a qualified disability expense and what can you use the ABLE account to pay for? Well, it is literally anything that helps your loved one achieve a better life experience. That's what ABLE stands for, achieving a better life experience. So as long as you use the money in the ABLE account on your loved one to help improve their life, it's totally legit. So that can be food, rent, mortgage, utilities, car payments, gas, public transit, Ubers, any medical expenses that your insurance doesn't cover, or therapies, co-pays, things like that. You can use it to pay for just basic living expenses, clothing, cell phone bills, electronics, educational expenses like tuition, books, things like that. You can even use the ABLE account to pay for financial planning services, legal needs like setting up your trust, things like that. Anything that will benefit the person with the disability. There's a great question in the chat box right now. Can you use the ABLE funds for recreation and vacation expenses? Absolutely. Now, you can pay for the individual with the disability to go on vacation and one person to act as caregiver. You cannot pay for the whole family to take a trip on little Jacob's expense, but you can pay for the individual and a caregiver. So yeah, really, really broad use of the ABLE account. Now, what we recommend, in using this ABLE account, because if you get audited, they're going to want to know, what did you use this money on? So we think it's really important, and I'm probably going to touch on this again, but just make sure that when you have an ABLE account, we think it's best that you do not spend directly from the ABLE account. You want to spend money through the child's bank account because that way, if you ever get audited and you need to show where all the money has come in and where it has all gone to and when it went into the ABLE and when it came back from the ABLE and what you spent it on. Was it a Target or HEB or a clothing store, or was it for medical necessity or what? If you spend everything through the bank account, all you need to do is show the transaction record from that bank account to your auditor and you'll have all the answers. If you're spending money from the ABLE account, maybe with a debit card, or you're paying people from a trust instead of putting it into the bank account and then spending it out, then you're going to have to provide a lot more documentation and things are going to be a little messier. I see a question in the chat box that says, when you say you can use the ABLE account for utilities, is this only when they live on their own? What if they live with their parents? Diana, that's a great question. Generally, if a child is living with a parent, we would like for you to charge them room and board. When you charge rent or room and board to your loved one, not only is that going to give them the maximum amount of SSI, so they'll get more money from the government, it will also protect those benefits, and you can use the ABLE account funds to help pay for those things. A lot of times what we see is our clients will choose an amount, a broad amount for room and board, maybe $500-600 a month. Take that money from your child's bank account each month and put it into your own, because that gives you the maximum in SSI. And if you have questions further about that, we would love to help you. So there are over 49 different ABLE account programs across the United States, because each state has their own program, and some of them even have two. But you do not have to use the ABLE account for the state that you live in. You can compare different ABLE accounts all across the country, and most of them will be available to you. Now, some of them are only open to residents of that state. Some of them give tax benefits to residents of their state if you use the state ABLE. Again, here in Texas, we don't have that. So we use the ABLE account from the state of Virginia for our clients. And that allows us to open an ABLE account for our clients and manage that for them and keep track of it. You can open one yourself if you would like to take that on. You can choose any ABLE account. You can use the ABLE National Resource Center website to compare and contrast different fees and features. Now, this will be a link when you receive the slides later on today. Allie wants to know, do you still need to keep the receipts? Just because Target is on the bank statement doesn't mean it was all spent on the child. How do you prove? Well, that is, a very good question. Another great question, Allie. If you go to Target with your loved one and you buy a cart full of stuff, and some of it is for them, some of it is for you, that can be, kind of a headache. I would have two transactions at Target. I would pay for my stuff with my money, and I would pay for my child's stuff with their money, or make that part of their room and board. If you're buying groceries for your loved one and they eat 50% of the cereal, do you really want to go through every single Target and HEB or Meijer receipt and pick out how much does half of a box of cereal cost? Because that's how much they ate. I wouldn't want to do that. So I generally would just charge it under one room and board, make it easy. Okay. Let's get a few more slides in and then we'll get back to some more of the questions. So when you're applying for the ABLE account, you will need identity, of course, the name and address, birth dates, social security numbers, and a copy of the ID. We also need you to be able to certify when the child was diagnosed with a disability, just so that we know that you have the proof in case you get audited. If you would like to be your child's legal representative, their representative payee is what it's called in some circumstances, that's totally fine, but we will also need your ID and social security numbers. We also use a voided check to make sure that we have the bank account number and routing number correct. They will also accept a bank statement if it has that information on it, or a letter from the bank if you don't have checks. Now, again, if you would like CPG to open the account for you, we ask for you to fill out one form, we have some conversations with you, and we get this opened up. We would do all the paperwork. So when you put your money into the ABLE account, it doesn't just sit there like it's under your mattress. There are different options with what will happen to the money. It's kind of, you have options that are more like it can be high yield savings account, or it can act more like an investment portfolio. It can have both wrapped into one account depending on your desires and your needs. So the money does not count against Medicaid or SSI guidelines. Doesn't count towards that $2,000 limit as long as you don't go over 100,000 in the ABLE account. You can have some or all of it as cash in this account. You can have some or all of it as investments in the account. And this goes with most ABLE accounts. You can choose what levels you want. We often use a rating system or a risk profile that discusses, how much are you willing to take on when it comes to risk? If you would like to be very conservative and you don't like to think of taking any risk at all, then your money should be in cash or in the money market, taking on little risk. But as you know, less risk means less reward. That would be a 1. The opposite side is a 6. That would be a very aggressive risk allocation. Somebody who is putting their money in aggressive markets. That's probably not good for an ABLE account because there's more of a probability that that money could be lost. You're putting more money at risk. You're taking on, you're going to get more reward, but you're taking on that risk. So when it comes to money in an ABLE account, we typically recommend that our clients use about a profile 3, a little bit of cash mixed with a little bit of safety and a little bit of return with a little bit of risk. And that gives you a good balanced portfolio, especially for this ABLE account, because we don't want to lose money. We don't need to go crazy with it either. We want it to be there for our loved ones. So again, the cash option is more safe. You can have it mainly in just an interest-bearing account. And there is also a growth option with that investment. Now, the money that is invested, as it grows, that income is not taxed at all, which is a huge benefit to the ABLE account. It allows that money to continue to grow without taxes. And usually that investment is through mutual funds. So the wealth building part, it grows tax-free. As long as you use the money for qualified disability expenses, there's no taxes or penalties. You don't even get a 1099 form at the end of the year for the interest earns. It's just simple. Now, how do you get the money out when you're ready to spend the money that is in the ABLE account? Well, you can have a Visa or MasterCard debit card linked to the account. You can even use a prepaid card like a TrueLink or a prepaid credit card. Those are all fine options, but again, it's not our favorite. We prefer that you transfer the funds directly from the ABLE account into the individual's bank account and then use their bank account to spend money. That way, we make it easy. When you have extra money, you shift it over to the ABLE. When you need more money to spend, you shift it back into the bank account. This provides, again, that easiest path for transparency and for keeping a record of the transactions, all of that stuff. So a couple of questions. When do you recommend young adults with disabilities apply for SNAP? Well, the answer to that would be for you to think about The rules and regulations that back SNAP. I believe that they go by a number of people in the household and income for that number of people in the household. And if you refer to their charts, you'll see how many people you can have in a household with whatever the income limit is and see if your household qualifies for SNAP benefits. If your child is an adult, they are more likely probably to get SNAP benefits of their own. But you're going to have to look at their rules and regulations. And I'm not really up to date on exactly how much money you're allowed to have. Brenda wants to know, my son's bank account is managed by his group home, not by me. So how can I show that ABLE withdrawals are used for his benefit? Will just receipts work? You really don't have to have receipts. I mean, that will definitely help. Keeping track of what you've spent his money on in a spreadsheet or a notebook or with some kind of software like some kind of accounting software would be very helpful. And yeah, even though the group home manages his bank account, it would still show everything in there in the transaction record. So that wouldn't be too much trouble. Just, yeah, go ahead and keep receipts, keep track of what you're spending on as long as you have a record. Tracy wants to know, are there fees for the management of the investments or fees to transfer cash to the bank account? Tracy, there are fees for the various different ABLE accounts. And that is something that you can compare on the ABLE National Resource Center link that I shared. The ABLE account that we use for our clients uses a front-end charge, which means that you're only charged a fee when you put new money into the account. There are not quarterly or yearly fees. It's a little bit different setup. You are charged a front-end fee. Other accounts do it differently. So that's one thing that you're going to want to check on. Are there fees to transfer the cash back and forth? Not for the one that we do. Different accounts have different rules. Okay. Now, the next thing that people always want to ask about, well, what about my special needs trust? And what's the difference between the ABLE account? You know, we can save money in the ABLE account. We can also save money in the special needs trust. So it's not necessarily should I have A or B. You should have both. The ABLE account, think of this as a wallet. Think of, you know, the fact that you and I, as adults, we have a bank account that is a checking and we have a bank account that is savings. But your loved one, they can only have $2,000 in the bank. And if they go above $2,000, they're going to lose other benefits. So how can you manage all of that? Keep their bank balance below $2,000. Well, you can use their ABLE account. Use that as their short-term savings. Use that as their wallet. Use that as the rainy day fund. So you can only put in $20,000 for this year. You can't have more than $100,000 total in that account. So it's for smaller amounts of money. Now, your special needs trust, I want you to think about that as the safe. Think of that as your child's retirement. That is money that should be used after you, as the parent, have passed away. When that happens, your child won't have to follow all the rules of SSI because they won't be receiving SSI anymore, most likely. They'll move on to a different benefit, which we cover in our Benefits 101 webinar. We're having one of those this week too. So think of the ABLE as short-term, the special needs trust as your long-term. Now, there is no limit on how much money you can put into the special needs trust, but there are some different rules about what you can spend it on if your child is still receiving SSI. Allie wants to know, should a lease be in writing to cover all of the household expenses? SSDI has never required that, but if it protects his money, we can start. So the thing about charging rent for your loved one is really more beneficial when they're on SSI. The thing is, if they've already switched over to SSDI, that's not as important. Um, when you are on SSI, if you're not helping to pay, if the individual is not helping to pay for their own housing, then the Social Security Administration will cut their benefit by 1/3. In order to get the full benefit, all you need to do is charge rent. Show that your loved one is helping to pay for their housing. Now, if they're at a group home, are they helping to pay for some of that? They should be, and then they can get more in SSI. All right. Those are things to think about. Is there a minimum age to have an ABLE account or to charge room and board? Diana, this $2,000 rule does not come into play until your child turns 18 or if they're on SSI. Now, most kids won't be on SSI until they turn 18. So it's not really necessary to have an ABLE account unless you want to start building up a bit of savings. The ABLE account really comes in handy and is really important when a child is 18 years old or older, especially if they're receiving SSI benefits and slash or working, because they have to keep that bank account below $2,000. So imagine this, when you're on SSI, you should be receiving $994 per month for 2026. So after 2 months, if your loved one is receiving $994, but they're not spending out enough, after just 2 months, you're going to hit that $2,000 limit, or you're going to be very close. So we're looking for ways to make sure that the money gets used so that you continue getting the benefits, and you're going to use that money for your loved one's benefit. Now, you can take that rent money and put it into the ABLE account. You can take that rent money and use it to pay household expenses. You can take that rent money and invest it in an account that you leave to your special needs individuals trust, not to them directly, to the special needs trust. You can even use that monthly rent payment maybe to purchase life insurance on you as the parent that will flow tax-free into the special needs trust when you pass away. There's a lot of options for that money. Okay. And it's not, underhanded or sneaky or hiding money. This is literally just the rules of the game. Okay, so let's go over some of these differences to help you understand the vast differences between the ABLE account and the third-party special needs trust. So again, the ABLE account, limited contribution amounts. The third-party special needs trust is unlimited. You can put as much money in there as you want to help take care of your loved one after you have passed away. One of the most beneficial things that we do at Consolidated Planning Group is help you determine how much money needs to go into that third-party special needs trust when you pass away to make sure that it will be there to take care of your loved one. Now, ABLE accounts are funded with cash. You put cash into the ABLE account. Anyone can put money into the ABLE account for your loved one, including your loved one. Now, with the third-party special needs trust, that can be funded with any asset type. You can put investment accounts in there. You can put life insurance in there. You can put a house into the special needs trust, but it has to be a third party. It cannot be your loved one putting their own money and things, assets into the third party special needs trust. That would be for something else. The beneficiary can control their own ABLE account, usually with help from a parent. The special needs trust is under the control of a trustee. You have to have a trustee for the third party trust. And that could be a parent or relative or friend or a corporate trustee, or a bank. With ABLE accounts, you can use that money on almost anything, including housing, as long as it is for your loved one. Now, with the third party special needs trust, there is a little rule that says that if you use money from the trust to pay for housing, that is not the same as your loved one paying a little bit towards their own housing for SSI purposes, right? We just talked about that. Under SSI rules, the individual with needs has to help pay for their own housing to get the full amount. So if they're using the third party special needs trust, we just said that that's not funded by the individual. So that's not using their own money. So they would reduce the SSI benefit by a third. We don't want that. Now, the ABLE account does have that tax advantage. The income earned is not taxed, whereas in the third party special needs trust, the income, the gains are taxable. The ABLE account is subject to a Medicaid reimbursement clause if there's money left in there when the person passes. The special needs trust has no such clause. With the special needs trust, you can assign any beneficiary, whether they have a disability or not, to get those remaining funds when the beneficiary passes away. So what does that look like? People worry about that a lot. The Medicaid reimbursement clause thing. Some people say, hey, while my child was alive, Medicaid paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in therapies and medications and transportation and resources and all of this stuff for my loved one. So I don't really care if they get a few $100 from the ABLE account that's left in there after my loved one passes. Some people absolutely do not want to give Medicaid any more than they can get. And they want to play the game. They want to make sure the money from the ABLE account is spent. That's up to you, how you want to play this and how you want to control it. Some people have heard that they have to spend the money in the ABLE account. Well, you don't. You don't have to. If there's money in there when your loved one passes away, here's what's going to happen. First, that account is going to be used to pay for any outstanding bills, housing bills, medical treatments, transportation, any expenses they incurred while they were living, you can use that money to pay for it. You can use the ABLE account money to pay for funeral expenses and burial costs. And Medicaid can't take anything until you have paid for those items. So if there is still money left in the ABLE account after you have paid for outstanding bills and paid for funeral and burial costs, then Medicaid can come in and file a claim. Now, if the state files a claim, they can only recover money that they have paid on your child's behalf after you open the ABLE account. They cannot claim reimbursement for any monies they paid before you open the ABLE account. And then after those 3 steps, then any money left in the ABLE account can flow through to any beneficiary. Okay. Let's get back to some of the questions that I see here. Okay. Is there a minimum amount that needs to be kept in the ABLE account? Well, Maureen, with all these different ABLE accounts and all the different programs, they do have different minimums. Now, for the Virginia ABLE account that we use, it's called the ABLE America account. It is a minimum of $250 to open the account. Now, if you want to do monthly contributions, you don't have to, but if you want to, the minimum monthly contribution is $50. Outside of that, you can open it with $250 and let that $250 just sit there. Or you can contribute every month, or you can just contribute when you have extra funds. That is all perfectly good, easy to do. Jeffrey wants to know, do kids have to be over 18 to get SSI or SSDI? Um, Jeffrey, that is one thing that we spend a lot of time talking with families about. This is one of our topics that we do a lot of different webinars about. So generally, a child is able to get SSI before age 18 if the parents are very low income and have very low resources, like below $2,000 or $3,000, only one house and one car for the family. When the child turns 18, SSI does not look at the parents' assets or income anymore. They only look at the child's assets and income. And that's why most people, when they turn 18, can suddenly qualify for SSI benefits. Now, SSDI is a little bit different. It's a different program. SSDI is based on the parent's working record and the parent's social security. So SSDI turns on and your child can receive a childhood disability benefit when one of three things happens. Either a parent passes away, a parent becomes disabled and turns on their disability, social security disability, or if a parent is in their late 60s, hopefully, and turns on their own social security retirement. So when the parent turns on their retirement, passes away, or becomes disabled, then the child can draw SSDI or childhood disability benefits based on the parent's record. And that can happen at any age, but if it happens before age 18, there are some wrinkles that you should talk to us about. Rocio wants to know, can I make an appointment with you? Yes, absolutely. We're getting to that. This is a link that you're going to receive so that you can pre-register for our webinars. You can look here at all of our upcoming webinars, when and what topics we're presenting, pre-register for them so that you get confirmation, you'll get that link, you'll get reminders and the ability to submit your questions beforehand. Now, we have a very exciting new service, that Consolidated Planning Group, that we are just introducing. We have an SSI or SSDI application support service. You can hire our new benefits advocate, Jessica Alvarez, to help you with your application for SSI. And we have, different ways to do it. If you've already started an application, she can still help you. If you haven't started an application, she can help you. If you've worked with us at Consolidated Planning Group already and done a plan, that's different. If you wrap it up with a brand new plan, that's different. But Jessica has been sitting in on our meetings lately to get to know our company, and so that we can get to know her, and so we can introduce her support services to all of you. We did have a webinar strictly about this that you can find on our YouTube channel last week. This is our entire team at Consolidated Planning Group. Again, we are all for financial advisors, parents to loved ones with needs, and we've got a great staff behind us. And this is how you can schedule, your free consultation. I'm going to leave this up as I get to all of the rest of the questions that I can handle in the next 10 minutes. If I don't get your question, or if you're maybe too shy to ask, just schedule your free consultation. You'll meet with either me, my husband, Andy, or the company owner, Allison. We will answer any questions you have and then talk to you about our planning services. So Melissa wants to know, can child support payments be deposited into an ABLE account instead of a special needs trust? Melissa, child support payments should always go to a first-party special needs trust, because after age 18, Social Security and Medicaid consider child support payments to be the child's money. We haven't really talked much about a first party special needs trust today, but we can help you find the attorney and talk to you about what needs to be done to look at those child support payments. Can there be multiple trustees for the special needs trust? Yes, there can, but all that does is create a mess. If you have a trustee, you should name a successor, someone who will step in if that trustee becomes incapacitated or passes away. But having two or more trustees at the same time creates confusion and fighting and headaches. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Can you use money from the special needs trust for funeral costs? Yes, you can. You can use money from the trust for anything that you need. Are funds from the parent upon their death, like the life insurance, better to be directed to the special needs trust or the ABLE account? Hopefully, Allie, your life insurance is going to be more than $20,000 because you can only put $20,000 per year into the ABLE account. So we encourage families to use that life insurance to fund the special needs trust upon your death. When you pass, your life insurance will automatically flow into the special needs trust with no taxes and be there to pay for your loved ones' continued care. We want them to be taken care of at the same level as when you were here, and that's how that's going to happen. When a child that receives SSI passes, the last check comes into them. Can that be used for funeral expenses? Or would there be, you can use that money for funeral expenses, yes, if they, and anything that you want. There are also expenses, even if you don't bury the child, if you cremate or something like that, it's still quite an expensive process. And yes, when we say child, we're sometimes referring to young adults, but that's neither here nor there. Tammy, thank you for the compliment. Yes, you will get copies of the slides. Okay, Diana. Diana is asking about, can a child get SSDI if one parent retires early and takes their retirement benefits at age 62? One of the services that we provide is a Social Security maximization, where we look at the parent's Social Security and we can tell you exactly when you should turn on your benefits, your Social Security benefits, to get your family the most money possible. Now, it's not always the way that's going to be best for your family because maybe you need that income. Maybe you can't hold off until we tell you to pull that trigger, but we can tell you how to get the most money from the government. Allie says, I honestly thought my son was on SSDI since he was 18, but I just read the paperwork and it says SSI. Yay. So if your child is on SSI, the maximum amount that they can receive is $994 a month. SSI comes with Medicaid. So if they have SSI, they have Medicaid. If they're not getting the full $994 per month, that could be because your child is working, or it could be because you have not told them that your child is paying rent. If your child was denied SSI, that could be too much money in the bank account, or it could be that they don't qualify based on the disability. Okay, some of the questions that were asked before we started, I just want to see if we have answered all of those. We talked about child support. How can I get Medicaid for my special needs son? If you can get Medicaid several different ways by getting a waiver. That would be through your local authority. We have webinars about waivers all the time. So waivers come with Medicaid. SSI comes with Medicaid. When you get SSI, you get Medicaid. You can do a buy-in program where you pay a reduced rate. Um, and even, the Star Plus, things like that can come with Medicaid. So there are various ways that you can get Medicaid if you don't have that. Um, my daughter is 19. How do we know if she is eligible for SSI and how to get it started? We have webinars about that, or you can call and speak with us if you're unsure about qualifying for SSI or how to start the process. We can certainly help you with that. And again, we have Jessica now who can even do the whole thing with you or for you. Um, which which bank is best to open an ABLE account? You really don't need a bank per se to open an ABLE account. You need to choose which program you want. ABLE accounts are typically just electronic. They're not held at a physical bank location that you go to. But there are so many to choose from. Pension. Is there an ABLE account for mom, for myself? I receive SSI and I might receive pension payments due to divorce. Well, if you have a disability that started before age 46, then yeah. Okay, I think we've got most of the rest of these questions answered. Perfect. These questions in the chat box, let's go back over here. If the child has Medicaid now, but starts working and loses Medicaid, will it come back and take from the ABLE account after your child? They could. If you open the ABLE account and have Medicaid pay for stuff, but then lose Medicaid, can they still come back? Yes, I believe so. That's a very nuanced question. All right, I think this is the last one we're going to have time for. Sarah wants to know, should you start charging rent for your child prior to filling out your SSI paperwork, or do you wait? You could do it either way. We do have rental agreement templates available to our clients. We do even have a cash loan agreement. What that's used for is, let's say right now your child is not receiving SSI, but they're over age 18. On paper, you can have this cash loan agreement saying that, hey, little Jacob, you're supposed to be paying rent right now because you're over age 18. We're going to charge you $600 a month. You don't have $600 a month. So when you get your SSI and they back pay you, we're going to take some of that back pay. Basically have something like that written up and signed. And then you have the rental agreement written up and signed. And that covers you with SSI and Medicaid when you start getting those payments. You can take some for the back pay and you can take some for the rent that is going forward. And it's all covered in case you ever get audited. That's why it's so great to work with CPG, because we will make sure that you're safe and covered and planning for the future and you've got everything in place. I've got 2 more webinars to do this week. I hope that I will get to see you there. This information, we try to make it as helpful and valuable as possible. So please reach out to us with any questions or concerns. Schedule your free consultation. You can call me or email me directly to schedule that for you. And again, I put my name and number and email in the chat box for you. I hope you all have a great, great week and that we hear from you soon. Bye, everybody. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.